I'm Luke Cockerham. I'm with Lifespan Society of British Columbia. We're a non-profit society incorporated last year. This is hopefully the start of something we'll be doing more of. It's a lifestyle of longevity. Today we're talking about the Loma Linda lifestyle of longevity. Here today to present to us is Ketti Goudey. She received her MS and did her internship in dietetics at Loma Linda University. She has an extensive career. She has worked in public health, education. She's worked with the diabetic clinic, a lipids clinic in Fraser Valley. And currently she's actively retired. She teaches a community vegetarian class, and that's actually how I met Ketti. But anyway, I'd like to introduce Ketti Goudey, everyone.
Thank you, Luke. Welcome, everyone. We'll be focusing on a number of lifestyle factors that affect longevity and health. I'm excited to have you here because you look like nice people that I'd like to have live longer. And because I like to tell people what to do, according to my husband. Back in 2005, National Geographic ran an article, some of you may have seen, written by David McLean, a study funded by the National Institute on Aging in the States. In it, they focused on several different areas that had a high amount of longevity. Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Italy, the Seventh-day Adventist in Loma Linda, California. And then a number of years later, Don Buechner has written a book on the blue zones, which is again focusing on longevity. He found a couple of more areas. As before, there was Okinawa, Japan, and Sardinia, Italy, but also Icaria, Greece, Nicoya, Costa Rica, and again, Loma Linda. With Loma Linda, how do they figure into the centenarians? It's an average population. One person out of 6,000 would live to be 100. In Loma Linda, the population is around 23,000. Then wouldn't you figure about 3 or 4 centenarians? But they had 25 that they knew of just a couple of years ago. And that's significant. Studies show that 28% of the Adventist men live past the year 81, and 19% of the women live past 86. So what? If this is the way you're living, is that living? No. I think that if we can cover that for now, because we don't want to focus on sickness. We want to focus on, you can sit in front of that. This is a dear friend that has had a number of problems, like he was mistaken in a drive-by shooting, and life is hard for him. But that's fortunately not what all of you have to look forward to. In the Atlantic Monthly, a couple of months ago, they were mentioning Dr. Ellsworth Wareham. And Dr. Wareham is a cardiologist still practicing in his 90s. Well, he was a wonder. He is a wonder still. I want to tell you, though, just a little bit about Dr. Harry Miller, because when I went to work at Loma Linda Foods, Dr. Miller was still working there. He was one of the ones that helped start the company in the first place. But at this point, he was 94 years old, and every day he would come into work. By this time, he wasn't running, but he would shuffle in and whistle a tune and do his research on soy and its applications. With Dr. Miller, he was a graduate of Loma Linda, practiced the same lifestyle, and then he went to China. Over there, he noticed that so many babies were not thriving that he developed soy milk. At the time, soy was considered to be too toxic and they wouldn't thrive on it. But he developed a technique so they could use soy, and a lot of babies then started living that otherwise wouldn't have. He also helped one of the leaders of the country get off opium, and he treated General, I'm going to get it wrong, Chiang Kai-shek and Chu En-li and Sun Yat-sen, one of the first Chinese leaders, were a couple of his patients. He pioneered a technique for operating on thyroids that had goiter. So fatalities, he was able to bring from 50% down to 1% using his new method. And when he came back to the States, he ended up practicing, he treated 3 different U.S. presidents. In his 90s, he was a consultant to the World Health Organization and Food and Agricultural Organization. Why do I say all this? Because a person can be 80, 90 years old and still functioning very healthily, very much a contribution to society. So, thank you much. I'm going to take you over to Loma Linda and say, you want to be healthy. When you're healthy, it helps you live longer. So you have to look at the 2 things together, longevity and health right now. Loma Linda has a concentration of Seventh-day Adventists. Many years ago, when the church started in the mid-1800s, they started teaching that health is an important part of our responsibility to take care of things. And what were they teaching? Things that can still apply today. Good nutrition is important. The use of whole grains and plant-based foods. I might need you to hold that open. Exercise, regular exercise for your health. And water, both inside and out. Those were the days when some people would only have a bath once a year if they had to. And yet, bathing is an important part of keeping healthy, washing off germs. But water inside too, to keep our bodies healthy. If you want to turn to the next one, sunlight also. In those days, have you seen pictures of ladies with broad-brimmed hats and trying to keep away from any sunshine? Well, it was a significant thing to say you need to have sunlight. And even today, this is something that we need to consider as one of our natural doctors. My sister lives down in Tucson, Arizona. With the summer months, sometimes it doesn't get under 100 degrees. Are you envious?
What's that in Celsius?
In Celsius, that would be over 30. 30, 35. And so, because of the heat, people stay inside all the time. They're not getting sunlight, and vitamin D deficiency is a real possibility down in these hot areas. The next one I have listed is temperance. True temperance is the moderate use of things that are good for us. What would be a good thing? Beans. Beans are good for us. But what if I just had 3 cups of beans a day? What kind of balance would that be? What kind of diet? I mean, go power, but that's not the kind of power you're looking for, right? The moderate use of healthful things and avoiding, not using anything harmful, whether tobacco, alcohol, caffeine makes a difference too. The next one was air, the importance for fresh air, not just keeping the windows shut even in the winter. The next one, rest, getting sufficient sleep at night, but also not working 7 days a week, needing to have a break, having some rest time in our schedule. And the last one that they taught was trust in divine care, recognizing that there's someone that you can depend on. It's a real good stress buster. The Adventists had benefited from it and wanted others to too. You can see how with the blue zones that it was no smoking, okay, temperance, plant-based, as in nutrition, daily physical exercise, social connectedness, and the use of legumes, also a nutrition. With all of the other blue zone areas, it fit very well with things that had been taught before. The Adventists wanted others to be able to share the benefit that they were feeling and wondered, how do we do this without saying, you have to come and join our church? So they said, well, okay, let's do research and find out what's helping so we can share that with people and they can make lifestyle choices on that too. The studies began in the 50s with a mortality study. In that mortality study, it was found that the 23,000 Adventists in California that they were studying lived significantly longer than the rest of the California population. It provided some of the earliest evidence on the effect of smoking and was part of what caused the states to say, we have to stop that. Then there was the Adventist Health Study 1 that came in. It had more people involved, 34,000 people. With this one, they found that women lived an average of 4.4 years longer than the rest of the California population. I'm going to let you pass these around in case you want to write any notes on them. So women 4.4 years more on the average. An Adventist man lives 7.3 years longer than the rest of the California population. And taking 5 health behaviors, if a person was not smoking, eating a plant-based diet, eating nuts 3 to 4 times a week, exercising regularly, and maintaining a normal body weight, they could potentially add 10 years to their life with those 5 health behaviors. Along came Adventist Health Study 2. There are some things that they wanted to find out that they needed to have more numbers for. I told you about Dr. Harry Miller and about Dr. Wareham, but those are just incidences. Are those unique, or could it be something else that's having a factor in here? Have you heard of the health researcher that was driving through a rural area and he saw a man, an old man, sitting on the porch looking very happy, and so he decided to quiz him. He said, I'm studying the health habits of this area. Could you please tell me what contributes to your happiness? And the man said, well, I have 3 beers a day and a pack of cigarettes, and on the weekend I usually have 1 or 2 pints of whiskey. The health researcher said, well, this is really amazing. What do you eat? He said, well, pork rinds every day, but occasionally I'll have a beefsteak instead. And at that, the guy said, this is incredible. Do you mind me asking how old you are? 25. Perhaps all of you, though, have heard of somebody that seems to break every health rule and still lives to a ripe old age and be healthy. Whether it's genes, whatever's going on with them, do you want to put your eggs in that basket or try to go with a more proven health pattern? For the Edmonds Health Study too, they knew that to be able to say what's really making a difference, they had to have greater numbers. You can't base good research on just one person, on just an anecdote. An anecdote gives you a suggestion, a direction for where studies should go. For this study, there are 96,000 people involved. And the study doesn't just include California now, it includes Canada. There are a number of Canadians in the study, including us. Because of that, we're able to get the regular newsletters and get the progress of the study and what they're finding out right now. One of the things they shared with us is these are some of the research articles that have been done so far. I have a packet with over 300 studies that have come out on it. So tonight we'll try to just pick out a few things to share with you, not every single detail. 8% of the people are vegan. 28% are lacto-ovo vegetarians, lacto meaning milk, ovo eating eggs, and 10% are pesco vegetarians who eat fish. Meat analogs, the fake meats or the whatever you call it, phony baloney. A lot of people have been disparaging on, but surprisingly, the population is eating about 2 to 3 ounces a day on an average, and yet the health is still looking good. One of the things they're looking at with this last study is wanting to investigate the effect of soy on health and see if they can get some more definitive answers on that, since there are a lot of people are trying to avoid soy now. Most of the people on the study are people that are switchers, people that joined the church partway through life or that changed their health habits through. One of them that changed was Hulda Crooks. When I was in school down there, I would pass Hulda walking up and down the steps to the School of Health. She was a research assistant up on the hill. At age 65, she said, I may be a vegetarian, but I'm really not getting any exercise. I need to be more healthy. And she set a goal of climbing Mount Whitney. Here we go. Mount Whitney, the highest mountain in the contiguous United States. 14,000, I need help here, 505 feet, or if you work in meters, it's over 4,400 meters high. You get altitude sickness going up there. We did it. But she climbed Mount Whitney that year when she was 65, and she climbed it every year, almost, just missing 3 years until age 91. So 23 times she climbed that mountain. Some of the younger people wanted to go with her, and they couldn't keep up with her. She climbed 97 other peaks during that time also. and was the oldest woman to climb Mount Fuji in Japan. Because of this, she became known as Grandma Whitney. And although she climbed up there, Crook's Peak was named after Hulda Crooks because of all of her climbs and her example of health and fitness to the younger generation. And she is an example that you can make a change at any time and it will benefit you. By the way, at age 80, she said, early to bed, early to rise, out jogging at 5:30 in the morning, 1 mile, walk it back briskly. That takes 12 minutes. 12 minutes and 15 minutes to walk it. Do some upper trunk exercises, work in the yard, walk to the market, and then go to work. I wouldn't mind being that vigorous at her age. This is one of the charts that was in the newsletter I got recently. The causes of mortality. Now, remember me telling you that all of the Adventists seem to live longer than the rest of the population, but this is dividing up just by diet. Non-vegetarian are the red, vegetarian, and then breaking out men and women. You can see from all causes, the vegetarians live longer. From ischemic heart disease and cardiovascular disease, there's a significant benefit in the vegetarian diet. And when it comes to cancer, again, there's not as much, but there is benefit with cancer as well. Let's take another look at cancer. Let's take another look at ischemic heart disease. Men who eat beef more than 3 times a week are more than twice as likely to die of ischemic heart disease. On the other hand, if they eat nuts 3 to 4 times a week, it cuts the heart disease in half. Whole grain bread. If you're not eating beef, start eating more legumes. Whole grain bread versus refined bread lowered the risk by 45%. Another significant difference, eh? And one of the other things was water. 5 glasses of water. That's not 5 glasses of coffee, but 5 glasses of water a day lowered the risk 50%. It seems especially significant too if people have the water at night, that they don't have a cardiovascular event during the nighttime. So make sure you're hydrated before you go to bed at night. Now if we look at cancer, this only shows on here female cancers and male cancers. With the female cancers, the vegan diet provided the greatest advantage. For men, again, the vegan lifestyle provided the greatest advantage there. People who consumed the most fruit reduced their risk of lung cancers by 74% compared to those who ate the least fruit. Women who ate lots of meat and cheese had more than double the risk of ovarian cancer. Meat and cheese raise ovarian cancers. You've probably heard of tomatoes being good for men and their prostate. True. Prostate risk was lowered by 40% with a high tomato intake, but it was also protective for postmenopausal women. Not just for men, but women benefit from lots of tomatoes and other fruits. High frequency consumption of cooked green vegetables, brown rice, and dried fruit lowered the risk of colorectal polyps, almost a precursor to colon cancer. High red and white meat intake increased the risk of colon cancer, but legumes lowered the risk. You wouldn't be surprised with that. And when you look at prostate cancer, soy milk, if a man had soy milk at least 1 cup a day, that lowered his risk of prostate cancer. Diabetes. Again, vegans have an advantage here. A 62% of the risk, a 62% reduction in risk. Now, when I was living in Surrey, I was able to work with a CHIP program. At that time, we called it Coronary Health Improvement Project, and it was focusing especially on coronary. But the health habits are pretty much based on what you see over there and what we're talking about, an emphasis on a plant-based diet, sufficient water intake, exercise, and the Complete Health Improvement Project is now focusing so it can help people in lowering risk of cancer, coronary, diabetes, and other lifestyle diseases. If you wanted to check on it, you could check on their website. It's based on the fact that 75% of the diseases that we have in the Western countries are lifestyle related. In the Marshall Islands, diabetes is rampant. It's actually it's ruining the population. So many, more than 50% of them are diabetic. And more than 50% of the amputations in the hospital are diabetic because of their blood sugar control. The government asked an Adventist group to go over and teach them how to try to avoid diabetes. My friend Brenda set up the nutrition program there and said, "Hey, I need help, can you come over?" So I got to go over and work with her. We put people on a vegan diet, had cooking classes, and had them in there, even the men, stirring the pots and chopping up things and preparing the different meals, and education classes, teaching them what's happening, why it was important for them to do this, doing lots of blood sugar control, and we told them that they needed to exercise at least half an hour a day and 15 minutes after each meal. Guess when they would exercise? The Marshall Islands is near the equator. It runs about 80 degrees night and day all year round. Beautiful. But when the sun is out, you feel that 80 degrees a lot more than when it's dark. So people try to exercise in the dark. At 5:30 and 6 o'clock in the morning, you'd see lots of people walking down the road at a stroll. Here, they've just eaten, and so they're out for their 15-minute stroll after a meal. One of the studies being done is the Adventist Religion and Health Study. For a number of years now, different researchers, not just Adventists, but of all of the different religions, find that people that have a religious component in their life have better health. What they've found so far in this study is it doesn't alleviate, obviously, the pain of divorce or negative emotions, but it does ease them and help the people be able to cope better. There's one thing that just came out in the newsletter that disturbed me. A child that's in an abusive home is one that stays away from religion altogether. In other words, they're staying away from what could benefit them and help them come to grips with and cope with what they've had to go through as a child. Our social connections are important. Some people have redone the acronym and I'm going to need help. Keegan, thanks. And have added social to it. Now, if I had it up high, I try to put it at the bottom, and then you'd say new starts, because all of us can have one new start, we can have two new starts, we can have many new starts. And my hope for you is that you would have these starts. At Loma Linda, in one of the mezzanine areas, is this statue grouping that was donated by a doctor from Victoria, BC. You might recognize the story of the Good Samaritan. A couple of people passing by, but one person helping the wounded man. Volunteering, service is very important towards our health. One of the ladies that was in the health study just died in November last year. Her name is Inez Calder. She lived in Surrey, BC, vegetarian, and with her, she just worked in her garden. That was her main exercise. Not a big walker, definitely not at the gym. Gardening has been found to be one of the valuable exercises because you get such a range of motion, bending, flexibility, that it's helpful for all-round health. And Inez also loved people. She spent a lot of time with children and doing things for people, serving people. What are some of the lessons to learn from Loma Linda? Recognize genetics only accounts for 30% of your longevity. Just 30%. The rest is your lifestyle choices. You heard me saying how important a plant-based diet was, how closely it figured in to the different health parameters. Another thing, which is more unique to Loma Linda compared to what I know about Sardinia and Okinawa, is finding a sanctuary and time to decompress. Keeping a healthy weight. This doesn't mean a model's weight. They're not models for us in that. But a healthy weight. Eating, yes, legumes and whole grains, and fruits and vegetables. But nuts. Haven't you heard people say, I can't eat nuts, I'll gain weight? That I can't afford them on my diet. Nuts actually help a person that's trying to control weight. So nuts are in. Now, they're a valuable part of a healthy lifestyle. Get regular exercise. Are you supposed to be a marathon runner? No, you don't need to do that. In fact, that's almost pushing it beyond balance. Although it's good to be training, it's good to have the exercise. But regular exercise, not just once a week. Nurture tight social networks. None of us is made to live alone. That doesn't mean that everyone has to be married, but it's important to have friends, to connect with other people. How can you do that? Get involved. Volunteer. Join an organization. Volunteers have a health bonus. Talking to my Spanish teacher, she said, tell them to keep learning too. it's always important to keep studying. That keeps your mind healthy. So that's from my Spanish teacher. Eat a light dinner. It's contrary to a lot of society these days, but there seems to be a health advantage in keeping to a light dinner. Large breakfast, moderate lunch, small dinner leads to having a lower basal metabolic rate, to keeping a lower weight and better sleep. When people eat late meals, they don't sleep as well. When people don't get enough sleep, they put on weight. Insufficient sleep means our hormones are all upset, so we need to have that time. One of the popular meals is in Adventist groups is the haystack. It's something you might already do or use in some way, shape, or form. I think just up a little bit. I'm trying to find underneath you. No, you're fine. We don't have to move any further than that. Do we have some beans? Okay, this is the basic of a haystack. You start out with brown rice or tortilla chips. In groups of young people, the tortilla chips are a good choice. Yeah, you have to have tortilla chips. And then you have the fun of crushing them. It's great for stress relief. And what I love about this is that you don't have to have any particular quantity. Do we need a minute for them, or are they ready? Okay, we'll leave it just a minute then. With this, the basics are the bottom and then legumes on top. A lot of people have tried to get away from legumes, but they're missing out on a good health factor. And so I like it because it's one way a lot of people like it. They'll eat this, and it's simple, it's easy to prepare. Even if you don't have a stove, you could just open up a can and have the beans right from there. I like to use soupy beans, so the moisture softens things a little bit, but sometimes they're not soupy, and it's still okay. The flavors are still there. Then afterwards, we'll sprinkle on top whatever's available. One thing that I didn't mark down on your sheet, my daughter always adds is chopped cilantro, and that adds. It's a flavor you probably enjoy. Some people don't like it to start with, but if they have cilantro occasionally and keep trying a little bite now and then, like I used to think, oh, it tastes like oil. I can't eat that. But I have some now, and then I try one bite another time. I love it now. There are so many good things about cilantro too. One friend said that if you eat a handful of cilantro a day, it helps detox your body. It's very good for that. Parsley is probably good for that too. But any comments on that? I'm just anxious to hear what you have to say. Thank you. And then after that, you can put things on any order that you want. Some people are vegan. Oh, I better put it just on the side in case there are some people that don't want any cheese. At home, I make a cashew cheese, cashew dressing to put on instead. If you're curious, I'll tell you about it afterwards. And then you just add green peppers, tomatoes, black olives. Black olives add a richness, and so they're, I think, one of the important things to add. For people that don't use eggs, if they put black olives in a potato salad, it helps give the richness that you normally expect from an egg. But eggs are fine if you get them from healthy hens. Then this could be either shredded lettuce or sprouts. At the time of the year when lettuce is expensive, I only go sprouts. And oh, maybe I'm putting too much on and you can't see how pretty it is. Green onions, or now that chives are available. And then finish it off with some salsa. I'll just put a little bit, and then if you want more, you can put some. Now, it's pretty, isn't it? Maybe it's a little bit just like a 7-layer or something you buy from the grocery store. But when you do it yourself, you can make it so much more healthy, avoiding large gobs of sour cream or going too heavy on the cheese. And it's always nice to finish off with just a little bit of a creamy dressing. In case someone doesn't want any dairy, I will leave that off, and we'll use this as a demarcation point. There. Are there any questions? Any? Maybe you want to just come up and ask questions as you sample. Yes, sir? What kind of soupy beans? What we use tonight is black beans. That's my favorite. I love the savory flavor of them. You could use a can, maybe add a little broth to it, or if you cook your own, then you use the broth. But Sarah wisely just drained them with it being a canned bean. That's a healthy way of using it. I think we'll get that going. And you're welcome to come up and have a sample. Yes? And the nacho chips are the least healthy part of this. For somebody to start using legumes, I consider it to be a reasonable trade-off. And you see how much was added to it without salt. So the only salt in it is the salt from the chips and any dressing. So it would be the cooking process. And of course you can get baked chips, and they work very well in that too. Thank you. That's a good question. Brown rice would be the ideal there. Yes?
How do you make sure you're getting complete protein, and do you have like a certain portion of rice, small beans? Like I always hear different things about that.
How do you get a complete protein? When I first started school, yes, we were told about complete protein, but the research now has all gone contrary to that. It says if you eat any normal mixture of foods, you are going to get a complete protein, because with something like this, the corn and the bean make a complete protein. If you have rice and beans, that's a complete. If you have rice and seeds, that's complete. That's the normal way of eating, isn't it? You wouldn't have just rice all day long, or you wouldn't eat just broccoli all day long. You would have a mixture of things. As soon as you have a mixture of things, your body has a pool of amino acids that all work together, go in and make it like a complete. Where it makes a difference is with children, that you don't want to have children on a limited diet. Children should have a good range, and I think a soy milk is helpful there if you're not going to use a dairy product. Sir?
It's actually beneficial to exercise right now. If so, how much exercise should you get?
For blood glucose control or also cholesterol, it's advantageous to have like a 15-minute light walk. That isn't a time for jogging or for a vigorous fitness workout, but for a light walk, it's good. Oh.
For vitamin B12,
Yes.
to add into this supplement with artificial vitamins or fortified foods, or is there a focus on those foods that have naturally B12 and you just eat a lot?
He's asking about B12. How do we get enough of that? With more of the Adventists are lacto-ovo, so they're getting B12 from the dairy and the egg. With vegans, we really emphasize the importance of having a B12 source, of using fortified foods or a supplement. And so there are studies. Oh, thank you. Sarah put one over there and I forgot to use it, but thank you for bringing it. So B12, yes, you don't want to take chances on that. I'm going to take time out to cough and let you come up and have a sample. If you have any more questions, feel free to go afterwards. And Sarah, did you want to say anything to them? Okay.
Thank you, Ketti, for coming, and thanks to all of you for coming for Life
Whole Foods for having us out. I want to thank you guys. I want to thank our volunteers, Julie and Keegan, who put a lot of time into this. Carrie helped us out here tonight. Keegan's going to have a laptop set up a little bit later on. And if you guys are curious anymore about Lifespan, you want to find out more about it, or talk to him, he's going to have it over there. Definitely take a chance to try out the haystacks here tonight. And I'm sure Ketti will be around for a few minutes if you guys have any other questions or anything. So, thank you very much. Watch your feet on the boards too.
You're welcome to